people think segmentation is cold and robotic, but it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. Like when you segment well, people think, oh, dang, this brand actually gets me.
Because you're sending them content that matches their behavior. The waitlist opportunity, this is where those come into play. So if you're re-engaging them before peak season, that's the key to what I think you have to do. So if the segment doesn't change at least one of these strings, it's not worth having.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're just adding complexity for really no reason. It's one email with kind of 4 different small tweaks, and that's really the power of segmentation.
Yo, Chase, what's up, dude?
Hey, bud, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm ready to shoot some pods because we got a fun list to talk about here today.
Yeah, shall we do it?
Yeah, let's do it in 3, 2, 1.
From the open to the click, they're the masters of the flow. Just watch your list grow and your leads turn to go. Did we retain you so far, or do we have to extend it? If you want results, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Send It, where we discuss anything and everything retention marketing, specifically in email and SMS marketing and e-commerce. My name is Jimmy Kim, and I'm here with my co-host,
Chase Dimond.
Chase. Let's do a really quick segmentation check here. If I asked most brands, what segments do you have? What do you think they'll say?
I'd say probably 2 or 3. I guess number 1 would be openers. And then, contrary to that would be probably non-openers. And then maybe as a stretch, maybe VIPs.
Yeah, I think that's it. And that's generally the entire segmentation strategy. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. And that's unfortunately why they're stuck sending the same message to everyone and sitting there kind of wondering why email revenue hasn't been growing.
Right, because basic segmentation is like having a sports car, but only driving it in like first gear, basically.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, right? Like you have all of this power, but you're just not utilizing it properly.
Yeah, that's why today I wanted to do this pod, because I thought it'd be really fun to do something a little unique here. We're going to dive into some micro segmentation, things that probably are not going to be in the alley of a beginner. It's going to be someone who's like, hey, I'm pretty seasoned. I'm comfortable running around. Now I want to get a little bit deeper. And so what we did was we put together a list. Chase and I, we put together a list. We kind of worked offline, and it's 12 unusual segments, or ones that you don't hear too often about pretty often, that actually move the revenue. And I mean, I like to call them unusual because they're probably new to a lot of people. So let's talk about them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great episode for those that are kind of intermediates and advanced type folks. And there's not a lot of content for them. So, these segments are really the ones that we see top brands using to kind of scale without having to just sling more emails, right? This is allowing them to send just better, smarter emails.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, if your segmentation strategy is like 90-day openers and non-openers, and this episode might hurt your feelings a little bit, but hopefully in a good way here.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think once you implement these segments, you're going to see why you've been leaving so much money on the table.
Yeah, so let's get into it. All right, we're going to dive into the 12 segments, but let's first, and I always like to talk about this, about a little bit of the mindset shift that you have to make when you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I think with that, right, like most brands do unfortunately, approach kind of email growth wrong. They think, hey, if we need more revenue, if we want more revenue, we just simply send more emails.
Yeah, and you know what? It works until it doesn't. There's a ceiling where sending more emails eventually does piss people off.
Right. And with that comes unsubscribe rate hikes, engagement drops, Gmail and other ISPs even potentially start filtering you out.
So what do you think is an alternative when you think about this?
I think quite simply, it's send smarter, not just send more volume. And I think that's really like where, what we're going to talk about today, like more of this micro segmentation really comes into play.
Okay. For those that don't know what it is, can you kind of tell me 5 things that micro segmentation will actually do for someone's business?
Yeah, number 1 is it's going to help increase your conversions because the messages are ultimately going to be way more relevant and therefore convert better than generic ones, right? Number 2 would be reducing fatigue. People aren't going to feel spam because the emails are actually going to feel personal and relevant to them. Number 3 would be the improvement of deliverability. And this obviously is a big one, right? The higher that people engage with your emails, that's a signal to Gmail and the other ISPs that you're actually legit and people want to receive your mail. Number four is actually going to protect your margins. You're not having to just rely, entirely on discounts. And you're not discounting to people who may actually buy at full price. And then the last one, number five, is it's going to make your emails feel way more personal and kind of relatable. So even though you're kind of automating everything, even though this is going to more than just a single person, it's going to feel more like it's a one-to-one type email.
Yeah, I think that last one is key because people think segmentation is cold and robotic, but it's
Yeah.
actually the opposite
Yeah, that's right. Like when you segment well, people think like, "Oh, dang, this brand actually gets me."
because you're sending them content that matches their behavior.
Yeah, that's right, right? And if you do the math, this is where kind of brands have their, "Oh my gosh, this is actually kind of working" type moment.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I'd say like scenario one, right? Like I'm gonna keep a even number of let's call it like 100,000 people, right? So you're gonna send one email to 100,000 people. Let's say you got a 25% open rate. So right, 25,000 people opening, you got a 3% click rate, 1% conversion rate, right? So that means you get what, like 1,000 conversions?
Okay, that's solid.
Yeah, scenario two is you send that same 100,000 person kind of email into four groups of 25,000. Each group is there going to get like kind of a tailored message, and your open rates will probably increase, right? They'll probably go from a 25 to maybe like a 35% open rate, right? Your click rates will probably go from that three-ish click rate percent to probably upwards of like five-ish percent. And I imagine your conversion rate it's probably going to about double. So we'll just say about 2% just to keep the math easy.
Yeah, because your message is more relevant now.
Yeah, right. And with that, like again, I'm just saying 1,000 conversions on the example one. With this math, you could be getting like, potentially like 1,750 conversions, right? So what is that? It's like almost double. It's like 75% more revenue from the same list. And again, that's like just math and whatnot. It's not going to be exactly that, but you will see an improvement drastically.
Yeah, and basically you sent more emails, but you didn't send more emails to everyone. You sent it to the right emails to the right people, which is what that statement always means, right?
Exactly, right? Like each person still gets the same number of emails and slightly more work for you as a marketer, but with AI and your teams and stuff, and they're just simple kind of nuances and changes for each segment where it's not four different emails. It's one email with kind of four different small tweaks. And that's really like the power of segmentation.
Yeah, and you know what's fun is something that I'll plug right now is that if you're looking for more advanced segmentation and what it looks like in practice, tools like inbooks.ai make it really obvious because if you look at a large brand, you can see a lot more emails and it's a little bit harder to see when you see 1900 emails from Fashion Nova
Yeah.
why they would send 1900 emails. It's not that they send 1900 emails, right?
Yeah.
It's
Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
yeah, because look, they're sending to like different customers and different segments and VIPs and winbacks and everything. And we're picking up all these emails from all these different places. So even though you may see 1900 emails divided by 365, they're not sending 4 or 5 emails a day. They're sending 4 or 5 emails a day to 4 or 5 segments a day, which we're capturing, which makes it look like they're sending a lot. But in reality, they're just being more targeted about things. Hey, you guys want to stay connected with us? Guess what? We send a daily retention newsletter out that you should join right now. If you're not a part of it, it's emailmarketer.com. It's completely free. We send it to your inbox daily. We do breakdowns. We talk about the latest things. We talk about the latest tools out there. There's so much you can do. Plus, we even talk about the pod, of course. So if you're enjoying the pod, you want to be here, you want to listen to us, you want more email and SMS retention marketing tips, tactics, tools, tricks, whatever it might be, head over to emailmarketer.com. We probably have something free that we're giving away right now too on top of that. So go get that, download it, join our newsletter. We'll see you there.
Yep, exactly right. So on inbooks, right, you're basically saying, study how top brands segment. You can do that by looking at their emails.
Yeah, just reverse engineering their strategy. All right, so I'm gonna stop that, but that was a little shameless plug for inbooks.
Cool. Yeah, check it out. All right, let's get into these 12 segments. That sound good?
Yeah. All right. So I want to break this into 2 parts because there's like batches of them. And I think let's go through the first batch first, and then we'll go to the next one.
Cool. I'll kick it off then. So, this first up kind of group is this discount rejectors, right? I think this one actually kind of surprises people.
Yeah, you told me about this one. So, what is a discount rejector?
So they're essentially customers who buy without discounts. They open your promo emails, but they don't actually use the coupon code.
So, they're probably not price sensitive, basically.
That's right. Not at all, really. And if you keep sending them 20% off emails, you're going to actually start training them to wait for a sale and actually start using discounts.
Which devalues your brand.
Bingo, right? So, these customers really care more about value than just price. And they typically respond better to like things like, new product drops, more educational in nature content. Exclusivity is important, and the kind of limited edition type stuff is really important. Bundles, I think, is a great way. Well, technically, right, they're maybe getting a discount. They're not using like a discount code, but like a bundle, or like even a curated collection is really cool to do. And even just hooking them up with early access is really important.
Okay, so how do you identify these people?
Yeah, I think quite simply, just start by creating a segment that says something like, this person has placed an order more than once and hasn't used a discount code.
Okay, and what do you send him? Like, what's the message like?
Yeah, so kind of like that list I mentioned, just full price messaging, a new arrival, a limited edition, some kind of exclusive drop. Don't feel inclined or the need to, kind of stuff discounts because, the audience doesn't really care about a 10% off or a 5% off or what have you.
No, that makes total sense. Okay, let's move to the next one. We've got one product loyalist.
Yeah, so to build upon that, right? Like these are essentially what you're saying is customers who often and repeatedly buy the same product and ignore everything else.
Okay, so someone like me who only buys the same coffee beans and never
Yeah.
buys any merch, accessories, or any different other coffee beans.
Yeah, that's exactly right, right? And once you notice that behavior, I think the mistake that brands fall into is they try to make cross-selling too aggressive.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like, hey, since you love my coffee, buy this T-shirt.
Exactly. And you're just like, dude, I don't want your t-shirt. I just want your coffee. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So what should we do instead here?
I think with this, right, like the goal is to protect the relationship. Don't disrupt their habit. Instead, you want to kind of do a couple things. Number one is reinforce why that product is actually perfect for them. Focus on sending like usage tips and kind of hacks and tricks like that. Introduce more like adjacent products kind of slowly and with context, like share why you're actually doing that. And then also too, like for someone like you that wants just the coffee, make reordering that coffee just so effortless and seamless that it's so easy for you to do in a single click or two.
Yeah, so if they only buy coffee like me, right? You might introduce a grinder or brewing guide, but not a T-shirt. Stay relevant ultimately, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like it has to feel like a natural extension of what they already know you for and love you for. And they're kind of deepening the relationship with the product customer already trusts versus introducing to them a bunch of things they don't want.
All right, that's good. All right, the next one I have is the risky first-time buyer.
Yeah, and with this is the customer who bought quickly, maybe with a big discount. They maybe did very minimal research at best, or they kind of panic bought during a moment like a BFCM.
Yeah, so yeah, I get that one. They have a really high churn risk then, right?
Yeah, exactly. The reason being is they don't actually know your brand. They don't know if the product's right for them. And if you don't handle like post purchase here properly, they're going to disappear.
Okay, that makes total sense. So what makes the first time buyer a risky person basically? What kind of flags can you think about?
Yeah, a few couple red flags would be like they bought within 24 hours of subscribing, right? It was probably an impulse buy.
Yeah.
Maybe they use like a discount north of like 30%. So they're very driven, kind of price sensitive. They only bought like a single item with a low average order value. And they never really opened an email before actually purchasing.
Okay, so low commitment and high discount sensitivity basically.
Yeah, exactly right. And these customers are going to need a totally different post-purchase flow than the customer who researched you for weeks and bought it full price.
So Chase, I know what people are going to say. So what do you send these people?
Yeah, so I'd say that the goal here is to kind of reinforce the confidence in the fact that they made that decision, right? So you can use language like, you made a great choice. Here's why. Leveraging education on actually how someone can use the product, right? Things like usage guidance and tips, really layering in social proof and testimonials from other first time buyers. And then also too, offering kind of reassurance about your return policy up front, I think is really, really critical here.
Yeah, it sounds like you're basically holding their hand post purchase, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because if they get buyer's remorse, the product doesn't seem to work out, they're never going to buy again. So kind of moving on to kind of like the next one that you had mentioned was like the high AOV kind of low frequency buyers. Can you explain?
Yeah, these are customers who spend a lot when they buy, but they don't buy often.
Got it. So things like maybe furniture or expensive jewelry, things like engagement rings potentially, maybe even like a mattress or like an appliance. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, you're not expecting to buy every month or every year, even ultimately.
I think the thing that people get wrong here, right, is they just spam them all the time with promotions where really you really should be focusing on nurturing them. So, um, kind of letting you kind of piggyback off that. For your thoughts on this, like what do you think nurturing should look like for this specific segment?
Yeah, it's a content heavy play, right? Relationship focus. You're giving care tips and maintenance guides on the products they purchase. There might be some brand storytelling. I think that's always important just to kind of get them bought into what you're doing. And that leads kind of into that community lifestyle, right? A lot of things that are
Yeah.
expensive generally will have community wrapped around it. And it's really
Yeah.
important to get them introduced to that. And really, it comes down to really high value offers that are infrequently offered. So if someone bought a $2,000 couch from you, you're not emailing him weekly, say, buy another couch. You're going to wait for a year or two, and then you might send him something else from there, right?
Yeah, where instead of doing that weekly, you should be sending them things like how to care for your leather furniture, or here's some great in kind of interior design tips, or here's like kind of a cool customer spotlight. So don't try to force another purchase so quickly. Focus more on like the long term play around building that brand loyalty.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, I got the next one here. It's the engagement only subscribers. I thought this was interesting. Tell me about what you meant by this.
Yeah, so these are the people that click, read, and sometimes even reply, but they don't buy.
Yeah, so they're interested, but they're hesitant ultimately, right?
Yeah, this one's a bit of like a kind of a head scratcher one where like they're curious, but there's something holding them back.
What do you think is usually holding back a person like this?
Yeah, it obviously depends, but a couple of things tend to kind of show up most often. Number one would be they have some sort of price sensitivity, which makes sense. Maybe they're unsure, uncertain about which products. Like maybe they want to buy something, they just don't know which product is actually the best or the right one. There's just not enough trust to give you kind of their credit card, and they're kind of shopping you against your competitors.
So basically, as someone who needs clarity and not pressure, really, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the worst thing that you can do with them is just hammer them with buy now, buy now, buy now type emails.
Okay, so what do you send here?
Here I would lean really heavy into educational content. Everything from like comparison guides, like to answering that question that they have, like which product is right for me. Really understanding like what are the other frequently asked questions that people have, so you can go get ahead and be like, hey, you might be wondering these types of things. Here's the answers to the questions that you probably have. Use case is a great one. So how real customers are actually using our product. And then you want to leverage kind of handling objections. So why we're worth the price, why we're worth the investment.
So you're removing friction without pushing, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is a great segment to kind of study educational emails. In again, inbooks, inboox.ai, you're going to be able to see on that site, on our site, how brands actually teach instead of pitch. A lot of great examples.
Yeah, because once you remove the objection, the sale naturally happens then at that point. All right,
Yep.
so let's go to the last one on this batch. We've got is seasonal only buyers. I think with Q4 that just happened, I think this is a relevant topic.
Yeah.
There's customers that only show up during the holidays, Black Friday, summer, or like specific events that happen, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so interesting. Every year you see this and you're just like, wow, it's crazy where they disappear for the other 10, 11 months of the year, but they come back to life. Real quick, I have a 30-second message for you to tell you something that we've been working on. And I'm super excited about this, and you should be too. So, what if I told you you could instantly search every single email that Allbirds, Parachute, or Sunday Citizen ever sent? That's inbooks with two O's.ai. It's an AI driven searchable database of over a million emails from the fastest growing Shopify brands. Need a win back sequence? Type it in. Want to see how the best brands handle abandoned cart? Type it in, it's there. Looking for a holiday promotion idea? Done, we've got you covered. No more endless Google searches or digging through your personal inbox hoping you saved that one email and never being able to find it. With our platform, you can search, find, and execute campaigns way quicker. It's like having every single top brand's email strategy at your fingertips. Inbooks.ai, again, it's inbox with two O's. Stop guessing, start searching. Head on over to inbooks.ai to check it out.
Yeah. So, I think that most brands forget about them until like the next holiday, basically.
Yeah, which honestly is a mistake because by the time you email them, they're going to forget who you are. So, in that context, right, like, what do you recommend that someone actually does?
Yeah, for me, the things that I always say is you got to warm up the oven. You got to start sending them content 4 to 6 weeks before the season that that they're relevant. It could be lifestyle content related to the upcoming season. They also love sneak peeks because if they're seasonal buyers, they're only buying because they're getting excited about your product. Past purchases, something that you can kind of bring up in their memory and say, remember what you loved
Yeah.
last year? Because I think that it's a good way to jog their memory that they like your brand, they want to be a part of it, or hopefully the product was good for them and they're ready to buy another one. And last but not least that I think about is always the early access, the wait list
Yeah.
opportunity. This is where those come into play. So if you're re-engaging them before peak season, that's the key to what I think you have to do.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're kind of searching on inbox like BFCM or holiday emails, it's pretty clear and easy to see how brands kind of reactivate these buyers, a week or a couple weeks before the peak season that's coming up.
Yeah, it's proactive and not reactive when you think about it that way. All right, I want to go
Exactly.
into the next batch because these next ones are the next six that kind of go together. So you want to kick this one off?
Sure. So number seven, this would be like promo only buyers. These would be basically different from discount rejectors.
Okay, how so? How so?
So with this, right, these customers only buy when you're running a sale. They will not buy, period, at full price.
So they're waiting for a discount.
Exactly. And if you keep giving them discounts, you're training them to never buy full price.
All right. So what do you do? I know people are going to ask this. Do you just stop sending them promos?
No, but you segment them separately and you gradually introduce kind of value outside of just price.
Okay. Okay. Like what?
So, like, okay, the standard discount's what everyone does, but instead, a bundle, right? Like, you're technically giving a discount, but you're making them buy multiple things and spend more money. The next one is like loyalty points, kind of reward them with points versus just a straight discount. Leveraging like free shipping thresholds, right? So, give them free shipping when they spend over whatever X is for your store. And then even giving them like exclusive early access to sales.
Okay. So you're basically shifting the whole like value curve away from pure discount.
Yeah, exactly. And over time, some of them will buy at a kind of a full price or a fuller price if you built enough value.
Okay. And what about the ones that don't?
Yeah, if you can't get them to get out of that promo only phase, they just quite simply stay in your promo only segment. So you'll pretty much just only send them sales emails. That way, you're not wasting kind of full price inventory on them. And then leveraging the segmentation, which again is really what all this is about, is it's going to let you protect margin by controlling who sees discounts.
It makes total sense, actually. I never thought about it that way before. Well, on the next one on the list here, I've got is recently lapsed high value buyers. I think this one's interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this segment is interesting and it's actually dangerous because they actually used to love you.
So these are like the repeat buyers, the high AOV, the ultra engaged, and then they just suddenly stop.
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't catch them within that like first 60 to let's call it 90-day window, the likelihood that they're gone for good is pretty high.
So what's the play here? What do you think?
I think you have to lean into kind of reactivation, but really focusing more on like the heartstrings and the emotions and the personal part, not the desperation that a lot of people fall into.
What do you think this looks like?
Yeah, so I think it's more like messages along the lines of like, hey, we noticed you haven't reordered. You good? Is everything okay? Here's a couple things that are new since you shopped last. Hey, we still consider you part of the family. Here's a special welcome back offer. And then kind of a loyalty reminder like, hey, you'd earned X or Y points or rewards in the past. I wanted to make sure that you didn't forget about it.
Yeah, these feel really soft, so you're almost acknowledging the gap
Yeah.
without being needy feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And you can find like win back emails like in inbox from top brands where they're really focused on being more subtle and a lot less aggressive than most of the emails that people are used to seeing.
Yeah, I think it's the "we missed you" versus the "please come back, here is 50% off right now," like that feeling, right?
Yeah, that latter feeling that we all get and we've all been kind of guilty of, it just feels so desperate and it does devalue your brand.
Mm.
Moving on now to the ninth segment that we have, this would be like focusing on kind of multi-category explorers.
Okay, tell me about this segment.
Yeah, so these are the customers who kind of browse multiple categories, but haven't committed deeply to any one specific category.
So you're checking out your skincare, your supplements, and your apparel, but they really haven't bought much, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're interested, right? You can see what they're browsing and they're visiting, but they really do need some help and guidance.
So this is like being at a retail store and saying, "Help me choose," basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the brands that win with this segment, I'd say they use like a quizzes really, really well, right? So helping people find the perfect product specifically and uniquely for them. Comparison emails, so like maybe comparing two of the popular categories that someone might be looking at. I think you had mentioned something like skincare and supplements, so comparing those two and kind of helping them answer the question for themselves, like which one is right for you. And then curated picks, right? Like based on what someone's looking at,
Hmm.
here's what we recommend.
Matchmaker. That's what you're doing. You're playing matchmaker.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to look at that, right? You're essentially like reducing decision fatigue by helping them narrow in on their options.
Yeah, and once they buy, they'll see the results and they'll commit to that category, basically.
Exactly, and I think this segment really does give you like high potential, but they do need that hand holding.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna go to segment 10 now. That's really interesting. This one's fun. Subscription adjacent buyers. It almost clicked in my head as I kind of read that. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so you're talking about like people essentially who buy like a consumable or a topical, but haven't joined your subscription program. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically, people like me, I buy coffee every month manually instead of subscribing.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I guess I do that too. I do it on Amazon. I didn't even realize that, right? I don't do the subscribe and save, even though they make it so easy. So right, like they are leaving money on the table because they don't get the subscription discount. Like me and you are just buying the same thing, but we're spending 5% or 10% more every month. We're dummies.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, why do you think people haven't subscribed? Why do you think we haven't subscribed?
Oh man, I hadn't really considered before. I would assume maybe like unsure about commitment. Like for me, for example, for a coffee that I buy manually, kind of like you, um, there's three people in my house that drink it. Like our nanny, myself, and my wife. And certain mornings they want it, certain mornings they don't. So I don't know if a month supply is the right supply or not. So or maybe I ordered too much. So I think it's really about like the commitment issue. Um, do I want to skip a month? Do I need more? And I guess like I actually still keep trying different types of coffee. So I guess the other part would be like, what if I don't like it?
Yeah, that makes sense. But okay, if I'm the email marketer on the other side, and it wasn't Amazon, of course, but how do we convert ourselves? What do you think? What do you think works?
Yeah. I think the thing that I would think through here is like, don't just pitch like the subscribe and save right
Mm.
away. Really more focus on like the convenience and the habit.
Okay, I like that. What kind of positioning would you take on the messaging here?
So funny. The consumer versus marketer hats are so different, right? Like I'm thinking as a consumer now as like a marketer.
Yeah.
I guess like the messaging would probably be something around like, don't run out again, automate your routine. We make it super easy to skip, pause, cancel, maybe something like that. What do you think?
No, I think you're removing the fear of commitment basically because the real value of subscription
Yeah.
isn't 15% off. It's actually never having to think about reordering and just getting the same thing month after month.
Yeah, exactly, right. Because we forget things, and then the added bonus is the discount. But the primary thing is like not having to late night doom scroll, like, oh shoot, I forgot to order.
Hmm.
Cool. So moving on. So segment 11 would be like, I guess let's focus this one on brand advocates.
Yep, this was a good one. These are your super fans. These are people who leave reviews and refer friends
Yeah.
and like your social media and reply to all your emails.
Exactly. And most brands don't have a great way to identify them and therefore completely kind of waste them.
Yeah, no,
Where
they treat them like everyone else, basically, right? They send in the same promos, the same content, everything. So the
yeah.
advocates actually just don't end up feeling special.
Yeah, exactly. And the discount for the advocates um, isn't really like their core motivator, right? They're really more focused on recognition. So with that, like if someone really cares about wanting to treat these people well and make them feel special, how do you recommend and suggest they do that?
Yeah, I think it's all about special treatment, right? People like to feel special. So things like early access to new products, it's so easy. Not only are you know they're going to buy, but they're going to want that, right? They might want to have referral prompts with rewards. Hey, refer a friend, get $5, $10, $20 off, or whatever it might be. People like that, right?
Yep.
People like being featured. That's a good one there. If you have people who love your product, there's no better way to create UGC than ask them to feature, ask them for a video or a picture or something using your product. I think surprise perks play really well into this. If you can figure out how to add a small perk to your best people, your biggest advocates, because you're awesome, this is a great way to do it. And the last thing, I like when you can pull the curtains back and say, here's the brand, but here's the people behind it. I want to show you some behind the scenes content. This is going to happen because you are a big brand advocate. You've purchased a lot. You really want to make them feel like an insider.
Yep, exactly. And when you do that, right, they become even more vocal about your brand. Hey there, it's Chase here. I hope you're enjoying the pod, but I want to get just 30 seconds of your time real quick to tell you about one of our sponsors who let us make this great podcast. So first, I want to start with a question for you. Do you ever find yourself staring at a blank page, waiting for inspiration to strike? Your marketing campaigns don't have to suffer when your creativity runs dry. Omnisend has recently launched their most powerful AI update yet, and it is awesome. Its AI completely transforms how you can create and send your next marketing messages. And here's really what's incredible. Their AI doesn't just write your emails, but it actually helps you write really compelling subject lines, pre-header texts that are geared to increase your open rates, and ultimately build customer segments in a heartbeat. And just whisper to the AI who you're targeting, and it's going to figure out all the complex segmentation for you. That way you have no more guessing games. But hey, wait, it gets better. Their AI writer actually now proactively suggests improvements to your copy, and it's going to adapt to your brand's unique voice and tone while following email marketing best practices. And their personalized product reminders analyzes your browsing behavior to serve up exactly what each of your customer wants and needs to see. And their campaign booster automatically resends emails to people who didn't open or engage with them, which helps lift revenue by an average of 13%. And now, with over 150,000 very happy customers already dominating their markets using Omnisend's email, SMS, and push notifications, plus they have 24/7 amazing that actually responds fast and is very helpful, you're joining a winning team. So stop wrestling with writer's block and start letting AI do the heavy lifting for you. Visit omnisend.com and experience the future of marketing automation. Let them know that Jimmy and I sent you, and now back to the pod.
Yeah, which ends up driving the word of mouth of growth, which is what everybody's looking for.
Yep, exactly. So the most valuable growth channel, frankly, you ever.
Yeah. Okay. I want to move to the last one here. This is number 12. And this was a good one you wrote. And I think I understand it, but let's talk about it. The silent VIPs.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So these are customers essentially that buy a lot, but they don't actually open or click or engage with your emails.
Okay. So basically, uh, wait, how's that possible?
So
I was thinking
essentially,
about that. I was trying to come up with an answer, but I couldn't think of one.
so essentially, like what I'm saying here is they're buying through other channels. Maybe they bookmark your site, maybe they follow you on Instagram or TikTok, or maybe they just search you directly.
Yeah. So they don't need your emails to convert.
Yeah, that's right. But yet you're still emailing them just like everyone else.
But I would say that it would be hurting your deliverability because they're never opening.
Yeah, that's right. So the goal here would be to handle them differently.
Okay, tell me how you would approach this.
Yeah, so I would reduce frequency. So send fewer times, but when you do send, make them better and stronger and more relevant. So really keep them on kind of like your only the most important emails. So new launches, exclusive offers, right? So, you know, maybe like you would treat them more like you would like an SMS subscriber. And in that case, right, too, maybe you convert them to just being SMS if they've already opted in. And if they haven't, try to get them on your SMS list.
So you're just
And
not
then also,
spamming them basically, right?
yeah, exactly. And then using stronger subject lines and things, those things might help you break through.
Okay.
So,
That
yeah,
makes
on top of
sense.
not yeah, on top of like the not spamming them, I'd say like also too by like reducing frequency, you might actually improve their engagement because each email will actually feel more important and more special.
Yeah, this makes sense. This segment can dramatically improve your overall deliverability if it's handled right.
That's right, because you're not tanking your open rate by blasting people who are just never going to open.
Yeah. Okay. That was a good one. All right. That's 12 of them right there. And that's 12 segments that can kind of feel overwhelming. But let's talk about what to do and how to actually execute on this thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I get right, like the last thing that people want to do is build 12 new segments and then not know what to do with them, right?
Yeah, so let's kind of set up a couple tips. I'll start with the
Okay.
first one, right? So the first tip I would say is you don't need all 12 segments right now. That's like first tip number 1.
Yeah, that's right. We want it to be comprehensive, but we want you to focus on like 5 of them, maybe is a good number that will move the needle most for your own business, your specific business.
Which 5 would you start with, Chase?
I think number 1 would be like the discount rejectors. Number 2 would be like that, I guess that risky first time buyer group. Probably then the risky lapse kind of high value buyers. Um, Probably the promo only buyers, and then lastly, the brand advocates.
Why those 5? Why'd you pick those?
Um, those are the 5 that I use and think about most commonly because they cover like the full kind of life cycle, right? Everything from acquisition to retention to win back and advocacy. And they're going to help you protect margin by not always having to over discount.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you build those first 5, nail the messaging and then expand, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And then the next tip that I have would be each segment should change, one of 3 things:
Okay, what is those 3 things?
message, offer, or timing.
Okay, well you got to break that down a little bit more.
For sure. I'll start with the first one. Message being basically the actual words and tone you use. So, for example, like if you have a VIP segment, they get exclusive language. Where the risky buyer type group we talked about, they're going to get that reassurance that we talked about previously. Whereas the advocates, we talked about this before, but they're going to get that recognition. So, message should match the segment. Offer, right? So that was the second one, which is really talking about like the promotion or even like the call to action, right? Discount rejectors, those that don't want discounts, they don't get discounts, they don't get promos. The promo only buyers, quite simply, only get promos. And then the last one that we talked about was the timing. So, really here, this is focused on like when and how often you email. So, high AOV buyers, they should be getting kind of more infrequent sends,
Mm.
or silent VIPs get kind of fewer sends as well, right?
Yeah, so if the segment doesn't change at least one of these strings, it's not worth having, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're just adding complexity for really no reason.
All right, I'm going to ask this because I know the listener is going to ask is how do you actually build these segments to your ESP, like your OmniSend?
Yeah, in most platforms like OmniSend especially, they have segment builders where you just can combine conditions.
All right, give me an example of a condition of a segment.
Sure, like for the discount rejector one, I think that's probably an interesting one. So you basically create like the segment. Someone's placed an order at least twice and has never used a discount code and has opened an email in the last 60-ish days.
And then you kind of exclude this segment from your promo emails.
Exactly. Or you just send them different messages.
Okay, one more. I want to do this. What about a risky first time buyer? How do you think about it?
Risky first time buyer. So, okay, that would be placed an order equals once, used a discount code, and use a discount code over 25%, and the time since the first order is less than, I don't know, 30 days, let's call it.
And those people get heavy post purchase education flows, right? That's what you said?
Yes, you're essentially hand holding them through the early experience, especially.
Got it. Okay, that was a good one. All right, I'll give you my last tip here. I would say is test and iterate. You're
Yep.
not going to nail these segments on like the first try, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So, build the segment, send the messaging, and watch for the results over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I would say to add to that, track the things like open rate by segment, click rate by
Yeah.
segment, conversion rate by segment, and revenue per subscriber by segment.
Yeah, look, and if you see a segment performing better than your baseline, I would spend time doubling down there and leveraging kind of more variation of that same or similar type messaging.
Yeah, and if the segment is underperforming, I'll add to this, either adjust that messaging or reevaluate if that segment even matters.
Yeah, and segmentation really is not the set and forget it that I think a lot of people believe it to be. It really does need to be like this ongoing kind of optimization process.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's do a quick recap because we covered a lot. 12
Okay.
high impact micro. I've got discount rejectors, one product loyalist. I've got risky first time buyers, high AOV, low frequency buyers, engagement only subscribers, seasonal only buyers, promo only buyers, recently lapsed high value buyers, multi category explorers, subscription adjacent buyers, silent advocates, silent VIPs, and we had brand advocates. That was a
Yeah.
lot. That was a lot to go after. And if you're listening to this and you guys want us to go a little bit deeper on any of these, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section so we can see that, so that we know what you might want to dig into.
Yeah,
Chase,
absolutely. And
any
one
thoughts here?
Yeah, one final thought I would say would be, again, you don't need all 12 of these right now. As mentioned before, start with the top 5 that are going to move the needle the most, and then worry about the rest later.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate, each segment should change your messaging, your offer, your timing. It doesn't change anything. It's not worth having. That's like the lesson that you should get from segmentation is like you got to test and try, but sometimes it's not worth it. And no two businesses, in my opinion, will have the same segments that work really well for them unless they're very similar, I suppose. Like if you're like a CPG, and you're like selling supplement in the same vertical. But this is something that you have to almost test. And we hope that this episode of high impact micro segments or the unusual segments that work in e-commerce helped you there. So if you enjoyed this segment or if you enjoyed this episode and you thought you could share it to a marketer or a friend who's stuck blasting the same message, I hope you can do it. And of course, don't forget to check out inbooks.ai if you want to study how those brands talk to different segments. We have everything in the show notes below, so check that out. With that being said, Chase, that's a wrap for today. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, leave us a rating on your favorite podcast listening platform. You can follow the show all over the place on X, LinkedIn, YouTube, IG, TikTok, etc. And of course, you can always find us on social media. Chase is everywhere. I'm on X and LinkedIn mostly. But check us out, subscribe. We drop new episodes every Tuesday. With that being said, that's a wrap. See you next week, Chase.
Cheers.
From the open to the click, they're the masters of the flow. Just watch your list grow and your leads turn to go. Did we retain you so far, or do we have to extend it? If you want results, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it. Yeah, you know you gotta send it.